What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gaming Without Parole. My name is Bryan Paul. Sitting across from me, the a little bit somewhat illustrious Mike Zeller.
You're gonna bet.
Here's the deal. I re-looked up the definition because I've been using the word all my life. Since I was a little 2-year-old saying illustrious.
Yeah.
Illustrious.
Is this going to be a repeat of what we talked about at the beginning of last week?
It is. Well, it's a continuation.
Okay, it's like our bit.
It's our bit.
Awesome.
And it doesn't really mean famous. There's a hint of fame to the word, but it mostly about like notoriety.
Yeah, it's like renown
and being distinguished.
Yeah,
and distinguished was the word I was thinking of when I was calling you illustrious. So, starting over, I'm Paul, and sitting across from me, the ever illustrious Mike Zeller.
Yep.
Welcome back to Gaming Without Parole.
I assumed you were just using it to prop up my fragile ego.
Yes. So last week's podcast shattered the
It
fragile
did.
ego.
Yeah, I went home and just cried for hours. Right into my cat.
Are we going to talk about cats again?
No, we don't have to talk. What we're going to talk about this week is the fucking snowpocalypse that's been hitting New England. And I guess a lot of the country, but I don't care about them. I care about New England because that's where I live. What the hell? I'm ready to give up on winter. I've never been a huge fan of winter anyways, but it's one of those just like, I just gotta shut up and deal with it. But,
being from New England, you gotta deal with it.
Oh, yeah.
That's part of it. Anytime someone bitches about the snow, I'm like, it comes with the territory.
I mean,
you don't like it, move.
Like, how long have you been here? But this has been a little extreme. I'm not usually used to having 6-foot-high snowdrifts on either side of my driveway.
No.
I mean, I'm hitting a point where I literally will not be able to shovel my driveway anymore. Like, if it snows like this again, I'm just gonna have to call work and say, like, I guess I'll see you in April or May.
Yeah, it's crazy. Driving down the street, you see nothing but like you're driving in a tunnel. It looks like
piles of frozen bodies.
It looks like a Mario Kart course on the N64.
That would be so much better. All right.
Welcome to Gaming Without Parole. Mike, what do we do here on Gaming Without Parole since nobody ever fucking watches?
Yeah.
We might as well tell you all over again.
Yeah, we Gaming Without Parole is really an erotically charged exploration of human sexuality. We're really just open to all of these tantric who the fuck cares what we do? Nobody watches this show anyways.
I like this new podcast idea.
Yeah. I guess I'd kind of prefer if it wasn't two dudes, but
Teach his own.
What are you gonna do?
We'll at least reach 10% of the population.
Yeah.
Because right now we're reaching none percent. A big fat none percent.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. For all the 100 people that watched us. I mean, I can't believe we got 100 people to watch us.
Yeah, 2 hours. 2 hours of talking about video games.
Last week was a long one.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe we should try to cut things a little bit short. We know that you all have 30-second attention spans thanks to the internets and the TVs and the dead brain cells.
I'm not willing to cut it down.
Okay.
Because no wonder why everything's so high. I've maxed out my levels.
Sweet.
It's fine now. I'm not going to fuck with it now. I'm not going to cut it down because for the people who do want to watch the whole thing, for all the podcasts I like, I wish they were 4 hours long.
That's true.
So, not that you like this, but if you start to, then we're here for you. But you can turn it off whenever you want to.
And really, when it comes down to it, this is about us. I mean,
it is.
Sorry, everybody.
Yep.
We're going to just sit here and talk about video games. If anybody else wants to listen, awesome. Bring better iced tea.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's all right.
It's okay. So we always start off with talking about what we've been playing for the week. Mike, I gotta say, it's been a crazy week.
Okay.
I haven't been playing shit.
Wow, that is crazy for you.
Super crazy week. You knew that I canceled my pre-order for Dying Light. In my very small world, that's the biggest mistake I've made in about a year. Because I wanted to be playing this game all week long. Yeah. So when I finally got to order it, or decided to order it and saved a whopping $1 on Amazon because I waited an extra week.
See, if you wait like 6 weeks though, then you saved like $30.
No, because this one's got some legs on it. I think
right.
Dying Light is getting good reviews, and it was the #1 seller, I believe,
Wow.
for the next gen consoles.
Well, we bought our copies at work, so
Awesome. It's okay. So here's the deal with that. So because of Snowpocalypse, my Amazon 2-day Prime release delivery, not release delivery, it was a week late.
Yeah.
My 2-day delivery took 4 or 5 days.
Those must have been the hardest days of your entire life.
They weren't easy, but I obviously would have been playing something else if I had the time. So it's not the biggest deal in the world. I do have it now, and I played about an hour of it last night. Unfortunately, the first hour is really kind of boring.
Oh.
And that's what I've heard from people. You just have to kind of push through the first hour, maybe like 2.
I would say that's like
up
most
awesome.
games nowadays are kind of like that.
Unfortunately. So I'm very excited because graphically it looks really nice and it feels really good. It's going to take a little while to get used to the parkour free running elements because it's actually mapped to the shoulder buttons and it just feels like an X button kind of thing, like jump, grab something, X.
Yeah.
It's not, but I feel like I'll get used to it.
Can you just remap the buttons?
No.
Really?
No.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Nowadays, I think there is absolutely no excuse for not allowing like full button mapping for every game ever.
There's no excuse for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But we put up with a lot of shit as gamers.
But this is the worst. I mean,
it's not
in
worst.
our universe,
Nope.
This is probably the worst thing that we have to deal with.
Unskippable cutscenes are the worst. That's the worst offense. Nope,
That's
I take it back. The worst offense. Can you tell I had my coffee early today?
Yeah, there we go.
The worst offense to me, and this happened during Dying Light, and this is what reminded me how much it sucks. I kind of like put it in, I let it install its little thing, and I started it up, and I was like, I'll get to it when it's ready to play. And I finally got over, and I sat down on my couch, and there's the title screen. It says Dying Light, push X to start. And so I pushed X, and it said loading. I was like, all right. Like 15 seconds later, it's still loading. I'm like, why didn't you load it and then say Dying Light, press X to start, and then let me start right away?
They wanted to give you that title just to give you that little thread to hold on to.
Fucking ridiculous.
That is kind of bizarre.
That and unskippable cutscenes are my 2 biggest video game pet peeves.
Well, that's
all right. Well, thanks for joining.
Yeah,
us.
hey, so we'll see you later.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Anyway, so since I haven't been playing jack shit, what have you been playing?
So I actually have an urgent Bryan Paul update with what I've been playing. Yeah, I know you got to put the banner up there. Yeah, just a Bryan Paul update.
Yeah.
So just knowing the typical garbage that you'll really sink your time into.
You're really talking me up
I know,
this week.
I know. Sorry. I gave up on Adventure Time because it wasn't doing it for me.
Okay.
But so there's been this other game that's been kicking around for a while, and I keep eyeballing it every time it turns up in my like Amazon recommended list or something. It's called Deadfall Adventures. I think Deadfall Adventures, not Adventure. And it's an Xbox game.
Okay.
And I haven't heard like anything about it. It hasn't been reviewed anywhere. Like there's no walkthroughs or anything about it on the game FAQs or anything.
And it's a physical release, or
it is. Yep, it's a physical release. And I read the description in Amazon, and it's a very like Indiana Jones inspired sort of first person shooter, first person adventure game.
Interesting.
And the couple of reviews that I saw were pretty bad.
Oh.
But in a very like nebulous way, like, oh, this game isn't good, the shooting's no good, the puzzles are dumb, and well, what does that actually translate into? So anyway, something about this game kind of kept saying like, I kind of want to try it, especially when it's so cheap, like right out the gate.
Sure.
So I did the safe thing and ordered it for work, and and I borrowed it. And it definitely is not a like good game, but it's kind of a fascinating study in like bad games, and it kind of strikes me as the type of like this is what Bryan would get really excited about, his kind of bad game.
All right.
Because it's definitely like I mean, it's not even Indiana Jones inspired. Like, it's definitely a ripoff of Indiana Jones, like, pretty blatantly. I mean, the lead character even kind of looks like a Harrison Ford type character with a beard.
He's named Montana Smith.
Yeah, yeah, Montana Smith. That's gonna be my new fake name when I have to commit crimes and fraud.
I think I stole that from somewhere.
Oh.
I'm not that creative.
I wouldn't have called you out on it, but and it's clunky. I mean, it definitely has that feel of this was not play tested very well. Like I've definitely gotten shot through cover like any number of times.
Yeah.
You kind of there's occasional platforming bits which are awful because you just kind of slip and slide all over everything. The voice acting is really bad. I mean, it's like early PlayStation era bad.
Nice.
I know, which is like, again, this is your thing.
If it's going to be bad, it better be really bad.
Yeah. Although, see, this is the problem. I feel like when all of the when every actor in a game is terrible, it helps kill off your perspective. So you start being like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But when there's like a couple of good ones and then everybody else is bad, it makes all of the bad stuff stand out that much worse because you're like, this guy knows what he's doing,
right,
but nobody else does.
And that's the case.
Yeah. There's like 2 or 3 decent voice actors, and then everybody else is horse shit, and it really makes it stand out. And it's just such a bizarre little game because like some of the puzzles are actually pretty decent. Like the shooting's not bad. There's a decent variety of weapons. Well, other than getting fucking shot in the head through cover, there's a decent variety of weapons. They function differently. They seem to have there's some strategy to it.
I'm not getting like the full picture. Is there a lot of is it exploration based, or is it a lot of just kind of like
it's
a cover based shooter sort of thing?
No, it's a standard first person shooter. It has that kind of like gameplay wise like a Halo kind of feel to it, in that there's confrontations with groups of enemies, then you're moving on. But in between the sections, there's a lot of exploration. There's some puzzle solving. The game introduces really early on these like totems that you can find, or like artifacts that you can find that are kind of the collectible widgets.
And every time you find one, the character says, "This belongs in a museum."
Yeah. Oh my god, there are so many like pop culture references in this game, and like weird fucking pop culture references, like Darkwing Duck, and. Like, one time a fight starts, and your guy pulls out his guns, and he just shouts, "Let's get dangerous!" And I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. That was ridiculous. Or he'll quote the Terminator, and, like, in very awkward ways.
Does it all feel kind of shoehorned in? Like it doesn't belong there?
Like, this is going to sound kind of racist, but in Eastern European developed I feel like Eastern European perceptions of American pop culture are very weird. Like, even worse, like, even more off than Japanese pop culture references sometimes. Yep. And so I feel like you get these weird little, like, pop culture references just thrown in. Like, in not just this game, but in other things that I've seen, people from the former Soviet bloc produce. It's kind of this weird... And maybe it's because they didn't have access to a lot of American pop culture until, like, 10 to 15... Well, I guess at this point, like, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That there's this kind of weird delay, so everything has this like early to mid 90s feel to it, and they're just kind of like thrown in to like, this will be hilarious. It's the Terminator. Come with me if you want to live. Whoa.
Yeah, I'm starting not to like this game.
So anyway, these collectible widgets that you can find, these artifacts, a lot of them will have to do with a kind of like Indiana Jones inspired puzzle. Like, you'll have to walk along the floor and not step on the bad tiles, or like, and some of them are actually kind of clever. Like, you walk into a room and there's like, the artifact right on the table. But if you're careful and you look around, you'll see like a big dried blood stain on the floor. So it's like, don't step there.
Right.
And there's actually some kind of cleverness to some of them. And then some of them are just garbage. And because the game's kind of glitchy, like I had definitely, like I said, got shot through cover. There were times where like I'd step into like a little indentation in the floor and just get stuck. So there were times where I'd be like, is this puzzle bullshit?
Yeah.
And am I stuck, or have I just not figured it out yet? Because it's actually kind of clever.
Have you reached the point at any point during the game that you have to like restart?
Like completely?
Yeah. Or reset the system, reset the game, anything.
There was one point during a fight where, like I said, I stepped into some little indentation and I got stuck. There had just been a checkpoint, so I just blew myself up with grenades and restarted. But
because that's when it really starts to get to me. I understand that like some developers don't have the money for extensive playtesting,
and that's definitely what this was.
Right.
Like,
so when it's like things like getting shot through cover, I'm like, I can almost like deal with that, but it's when it's so glitchy that you have to like reset or blow yourself up. Yeah,
not often. I mean, that's happened once, maybe twice, but the first one's the only one that really sticks out for me.
Who's the studio? Who developed
it was the Farm 51, which I was assuming when I played this game that, like, remember we've talked about little indie developer, or not indie, but little small development houses before, and how they'll like, years and years working on licensed games, and then like this is their one passion. Yeah. I assume this was the one passion project that put these people out of business, but they apparently still exist. They've made a handful of. They're a Polish group. They've made a handful of first-person shooter stuff, mostly for the PC. They did some like support work on some Eastern European RPGs, like Two Worlds and The Witcher and stuff.
Okay.
So not a completely irrelevant pedigree, and they seem to be continuing to make other games. So yeah, very very bizarre. It does really nail the Indiana Jones feel, though. Like we've talked about the Uncharted games before, and how they're I don't know, they kind of, at least to me, they just feel off. And maybe it's because of the modern setting, and because it kind of tries to insert some more like contemporary themes. Mm-hmm. It ends up like you end up feeling kind of like a sociopath in those games. Where this, like, you're fighting Nazis, you're fighting, some communist bloc Russians, you're fighting the odd, mummy.
Yeah. When it comes to the discussion of Uncharted games, that's when I start being like, yeah, that doesn't seem quite right. But when I'm playing through it, I never feel like this doesn't feel right or this doesn't seem right. For me, I think Naughty Dog totally nails the Indiana Jones vibe. But I guess that's not really the topic of conversation right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did it. I think Farm 51 did a good job getting the tone right. It just they definitely needed more money and more time to play test it. But it's a really, I must be right near the end. And for everything that it does wrong, it's still pretty playable. It still had some fun bits. There's been one or two decent boss fights. I don't know. It's kind of one of those games that I wish was better, because I want to like it more.
Yeah. Oh, and those are my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. That's why.
Like I always get excited for games that I know aren't going to be awesome, and they're not awesome. And then I go, I wish it was better, but it was still good.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like, this is kind of the opposite of the Bryan Paul sequence, though, because I feel like when you start a game, you're like all gung ho about it.
Totally.
And then there's like this series of kind of steps down. It's like, this game's great. Why did it get reviewed so badly? Then, like, next week, it's like, well, okay, I see all the problems, but it still works for me. And then, like, the next step down is, I'm kind of hoping I'm getting near the end of this. And then, like, it's like, this fucking game. I hate it. Why did I buy this?
Yeah.
What am I going to do with the statue?
Well, that's another topic coming up soon. That's what happens. I get to the end of the game, and I'm like, I'm either so happy that it's over, or I've just had enough, and I just throw it into the unplayable pile.
Yeah, see, for me, this started out, like, not so great. I'm like, this is kind of kludgy. But now that I've gotten to the end, I'm like, this is kind of fun. I'm getting into the groove of this. I dig this game's, vibe.
Like, speaking of collectible statues that come in games.
Uh-oh.
Let's segue into the news here. Because the rumor this week is that the Order 1886 might only be like 5.5 hours long with cutscenes. How do you feel about that? Not that you don't have a PS4 currently, but step into my shoes. I'm very excited for this game.
You don't even have you made me take my shoes off before I came in.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't keeping an eye on you. Stepping in my shoes, I was super excited for this new IP from a developer that I really like, Ready at Dawn.
Yeah.
And this was their chance to finally make their own game, their original IP.
And to go out in a blaze of glory like so many of their brethren.
They've been given this huge opportunity. They used to kind of be forced to make PSP ports or original PSP games with such limited hardware. Yeah. And suddenly they went from PSP to the PlayStation 4. It's like having unlimited power.
Yeah, that's a bit of a leap.
Look by comparison.
Yeah.
So of course, me being me, this is the one collector's edition that I'm planning on buying this year. And I don't want the $99 one. I want the $150 one.
Wow.
I've got like 2 days to decide before they ship it. So more information for you before you help me out.
All right.
The collector's edition that I've ordered has been sold out pretty much for months. So it might actually be a collector's edition. Also, I don't really care about game length that much. I understand that I'm going to be spending a lot of money for a very short experience. But I've got so many games to play that maybe having a 6-hour game wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, I feel like this does lead into that, what's the appropriate length of a game? It's a discussion that's been going on for a long time, I think, in a lot of circles. And I think, back when CDs first kind of hit the console gaming scene and suddenly, developers weren't constrained by ROM size anymore and could kind of do whatever. And CDs,
it was almost a mark of pride to be like, this game is 4 CDs.
Yeah, because a CD, a CD is like 2 cents to produce and something. Yeah, so much cheaper than complicated, boards, chipsets. So yeah, it suddenly became like you're getting your money's worth if you're getting like a 150-hour game.
Right.
Where nowadays I feel like that's kind of swinging back around, and people are like, "Oh, this is 80 hours of garbage," or this game is just all hours and hours, but it's just all cutscenes and filler and backtracking.
Also true.
So I don't think it's a question of like you said, the length itself is not the issue. It's the quality that you're getting. It's how substantial is this? Because there are certain games that I think would do better to cut out. Most Japanese RPGs nowadays, I think, could do with a good 15 to 20 hours of cruft just trimmed right off.
Yep.
Where there are certain games that I feel like need something more. They need a little bit more substantial. So it really depends. I mean, if it's 5 to 6 hours with cutscenes, again, that depends. Like, how much is this Hideo Kojima, where like 3/4 of the game is cutscene?
It's not, but I'm from what I understand. I mean, I think we're talking like almost an hour of that is cutscene.
Yeah, which
right, we're getting down to like it's ending before it even starts.
Yeah. Because again, if it's 5 to 6 hours of like quality gameplay, you're doing something different all the time, you're always being engaged, then hey, that's that's worth it then.
So I think the discussion is that developers need to be honest with the consumer about what they're getting, because I think if you sell a game with the $60 full MSRP retail price and you don't say, hey, this is what you're getting, then it's a little deceptive. That's when people start to get angry. When you go in and you say, oh, I know this game's only going to be 6 hours, but I really like the atmosphere, it looks like my kind of game, then you don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to complaining. So I guess my decision here is not whether I'm going to buy the game day one. It's, do I want to buy a $150 collector's edition of a game that's only 5 hours long?
Well,
because I can stomach $60 for a 6-hour game, but I don't know if I can stomach almost 3 times that amount.
See, for me, and I've only very occasionally bought a collector's edition, and it's usually the case of like it's a game that I really want anyways, and if you get it day one, you get the collector's edition for like no extra cost or something like that.
Right.
I don't. There have only been one or two times where I think I've actually kicked in the money for the extra stuff. For me, the concept of the collector's edition isn't even really the money. It's, is this going to be a game that like I really enjoy, that kind of enters my canon of elite games? You know, kind of what we talked about last week, the games that I have a relationship with. You know, is this going to be a game that I'm going to come back to? I'm going to recommend it to friends? Is this going to be a series that I'm going to be really into from now on? Because if that's the case, then the collector's edition is something like, you know, it's a little point of pride. It's like, I love this series so much. That's why I have this weird statue and this art book and this pen with my name written on. I don't know. So where if it's a game that you just want to play it, like you're going to have fun, but that's it, then probably not.
Yeah. If the collector's edition wasn't sold out, I think I'd have no problem saying, you know, I'm just going to go with the normal regular game. Yeah. But now I'm like, it might be a little bit rare, you know, and I think that people have been kind of giving up on their collector's editions, you know, because there was a couple of days where I was like, it was unavailable, then it was available again, and it was unavailable, and I think these rumors might even be affecting their game sales. So I'm curious to see what happens.
Out of curiosity, what do you actually get with the collector's edition?
You get a pretty sweet statue.
Okay, of like the characters, or like
it's of the main character being attacked by one of the bad demon things. Okay, and it looks kind of strange. I think I'll appreciate it much more up front, but I'm not sure if I love the statue. You also get a pretty cool I think it's an art book, and it's got like a little secret compartment in it, and that's the thing that I think is way cooler. Yeah. So here's my other problem with collector's editions, though, is that when I get something super freaking cool, like the Ni no Kuni collector's edition, probably my favorite collector's edition of all time, especially since whoever produced them totally screwed up and promised like thousands and thousands and thousands more than they could make. So tons of people that had pre-ordered did not get them. And just were like, "Oh, sorry, you know, here's our apology, but you're not going to get it." So it's kind of sought after. Yeah. And so, but also like the book that comes with it, and there's a plush toy and everything. Like, I don't take those things out. I took them out really gently and looked at them and was like, ooh. And then like very carefully put them back in the box.
Light, the halo light around. Exactly. Them. Like, I got to get that hole fixed.
So I put it back in the box, and then I put it on the shelf, and I'm like, yep. The exception to that rule is games I don't care about that much. Like, I've got my Joker statue behind you from Batman Arkham Origins, and I think the statue is awesome, but I hate the game. And I would if I threw out the collector's edition box and the game itself, I wouldn't care. So I don't know. I'm kind of at a crossroads, and I think whatever I determine is going to determine a lot of things about if I buy collector's editions in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough decision.
You know what's going to happen. I'm going to buy the fucking thing. Yeah. And I'm going to be like, look how cool it is. 5 hours later.
And then, 3 days later, this fucking game.
Yeah, I never play it again. Well, I mean, 3 days later. It's going to be 5 hours later. And who knows? Like, this is a rumor. It could very well be false. And if it is, then bonus. Moving on. I think you kind of called this one. Nintendo is considering re-releasing their more popular Amiibos. Now, what does more popular Amiibos mean to you? The ones that sold out so fast that you can't get them, or the ones that are still on store shelves that sold millions?
You know, I'm going to assume just the semantics of this, that they mean the ones that sold out, because they've always said that they're going to continue producing, you know, Mario, Link, Peach, Bowser, you know, those core ones.
Right, so the only ones left are the ones you can't find. Right. So if you spend $100 on a Marth, then you're fucking stupid. Yep. Yeah. Yep. I spent $30 on mine. Just a little dumb.
Yeah. There you go. You're moving in the right direction.
Un poquito tonto. Yeah. For our Spanish viewers, which actually isn't correct. Un poquito. I don't know. I'll when I get to work.
Well, I mean, that literal translation, that's a little stupid.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know.
Un poco estupido.
Yeah, what is a little... Is that donkey? A little ass?
What? Tonto?
Tonto?
No. It means... It doesn't mean, like, stupid in terms of, like, sense, like you're dumb. It means, like, kind of crazy stupid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This has been our Spanish language segment.
I know so little Spanish. So at the same time as they said that, hey, we're considering re-releasing some of these Amiibos, they also said, in the spring, I think they said, they're going to start releasing the Amiibo cards, so that people who don't want the toys can still get the content that the Amiibos deliver.
That seems lame.
It depends.
I could see people buying that, but it seems to kind of defeat the whole
collectability.
Yeah,
thing.
the whole like fun of the thing.
But what if the cards start to become collectible?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole thing. It's like, well, I've already got the toys, but now I need the cards, right? And
I'm not. It's a good business plan for Nintendo. I'm not faulting them there. I'm just saying.
Like, our console's not selling, so let's just sell them a bunch of fucking toys.
Yeah. Hey, they're doubling down with their user base.
They've got so much money, and this is why.
Yeah.
They're kind of awesome.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, with very few exceptions, I think you really can't fault Nintendo's business plan for most of the year. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's crazy. What's the rumor though that they said they're going to stop support on Wii U?
Oh, I've been hearing that forever. I mean, that's the same that you always.
But there was no actual. No, they never said that. That would be the dumbest thing they could say.
Yeah, it would be really bad.
Okay, so anybody who's supporting that rumor, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and Nintendo, I mean...
Have we been cussing excessively this episode?
A little bit. I do a lot anyways.
Right.
But I
said cussing.
I mean, you see the big difference here between a Nintendo and a Sega. I mean, Nintendo has a really good example of how not to operate a console lifespan. I mean, Sega was always jumping ship, and that eventually sunk them. Where Nintendo, even when they've had a rough patch, the smart thing is to not jump and immediately move on to something new.
Right.
It's to kind of, invest yourself, because if you jump to a new console,
you lose brand loyalty.
Yeah, you're going to burn the people that invested, that stick with you, and are you really going to attract new people anyways?
Right.
Right. Maybe.
If they jump ship on the Wii U and created something new, it would be years before I bought their new thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I would totally lose trust immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
That said, I fucking love my Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm a huge Saturn fan. I'm not critiquing the quality of Sega's console. Right. I'm critiquing their business plan.
So speaking of the Wii U, segue. Blink, blink, blink. I'm going to fuck up this name. Tomonobu Itagaki.
Okay. Yeah. What did he do?
I think he's the producer of. He must be at Tecmo because he's talking about Fatal Frame 5.
Okay. Yeah.
So for a long time, it sounded like it was not going to come to North America, and which made my soul hurt because Fatal Frame is one of my favorite survival horror games of all time.
That this is one area where I feel like, despite you and I having, for the most part, very different taste in games, I think this is some common ground we can share because I feel like big enthusiasts of Japanese horror games and big enthusiasts of Japanese role-playing games have been burned in equal measure. Like those games, I feel like occupy a similar, or they've had a similar path over the years. I think. Yeah,
agreed. But this might be a little beacon of light.
Okay.
I honestly haven't played my Wii U in months, and I mean it's got games that I love.
Yeah.
So I will definitely get this game day one, collector's edition. No, I'm excited because Fatal Frame games have been awesome.
3 hours with cutscenes.
No, please, no. Actually, yeah, that's fine. I got too many games, man. Like, let's make all games 5 hours. Let's just do that. So this one's awesome. So Rare as a company still exists.
Yeah,
they've been making the Kinect Microsoft sports games, whatever the hell they're called.
Kinect Sports.
Thank you.
I don't know.
That was too easy. I'll give you a harder one next time. So they still exist, but apparently a lot of their founding members are not there anymore, which makes sense.
Yeah.
If you made all these awesome games and then you were forced to make Kinect Sports Rivals, I probably wouldn't be there much longer.
Yeah, they've had a bit of a rocky path in recent years.
And Microsoft has promised that their they're coming back, like in full force.
Battletoads 3. Actually, what would we be up to now?
Well,
they never numbered them.
No, because there was one with Double Dragon.
Yeah.
And there was one on the Game Boy, but that was sort of a remake.
Yeah, there was Battletoads, Battle Maniacs, and then Battletoads and Double Dragon. So I think it would be 4. I don't think... There was the arcade game, too, which was bizarrely gory. Have you ever played Battletoads Arcade?
Never even seen it.
You should. It's great.
Really?
Yeah, it's really gory.
Bring back Battletoads.
Yeah.
But the thing that happened this week, and it actually maybe last week, we're a little late on this podcast.
Yeah, because of the snowpocalypse.
The snowpocalypse. So
I could not get out of my driveway for several days.
If the news here is a little bit old and we're not quite updated, don't blame us. It's our fault.
Yeah.
But don't blame us.
But
yeah,
it's Mother Nature.
So the founding core members of Rare have created a new studio. It's called
Rarest.
Right, extra rare.
Yeah.
No, they are called Platonic Games, like platonic, but Platonic. Yeah. And they have a project coming up. It's not named, but they're calling it codename Project Ukulele.
Okay.
It's going to be the spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie.
Huh.
So far, they've released some concept art and said that they're doing it. It's hard to get excited at this point, but...
Because it's Banjo-Kazooie.
Not so much. I think there's a lot of Banjo-Kazooie fans out there.
Yeah.
And I think the people who... I think Rare lost its spark a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this might be the return of that spark under a new name. So I'm excited only because I think that's something that we lost with the last couple of generations of consoles. After I was going to say Ratchet and Clank, but man, Ratchet and Clank won't go away. Jak and Daxter hasn't had a good platform in a while.
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot hasn't been relevant forever. All the N64 platformers, Donkey Kong, Banjo-Kazooie, Conker. We haven't seen a really good 3D platformer in a long time.
Yeah, well, the mascot, especially the animal mascot overall, has been kind of on a life support for quite a while.
Yeah, but I think it's a good time to bring it back.
Yeah,
because we got sick of it for a while. I think it was just the market was saturated, and especially with Rare, it seemed like every year they were just pumping out another one.
Yeah,
but I think it's a good time to bring it back because we haven't seen one in a while. I'd play it.
Yeah,
it's coming to PC and consoles. They haven't really specified anything more than that. I'm only talking about this one because I think you might care, and I'm not even sure if that's true. Square Enix announced that Dissidia is coming to Japanese arcades.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
In general, I tend to be the type of person that I prefer to play things on handhelds most of the time. Realistically, I move around a lot. I have a big house, and I like to sit in different rooms sometimes, so that's just easier that way. But Dissidia was one of those games that I felt like I wish this was on consoles instead. I wish this had the additional horsepower of a console behind it, because I really like what they're selling here, and I like this concept. And I like the mechanics, but it feels like it needs some more punch to it.
Yeah.
So that's good news. Maybe we're heading towards a console Dissidia.
I think that's kind of the bigger news, because also, can we go to Japan?
Yeah, seriously.
Because obviously Japanese arcades are probably thriving.
Yeah, they're pretty odd. Well, I don't know about thriving, but they definitely are active. When I was
they
there,
exist.
Yeah, when
which
I was
is more
there,
than you can say for North American arcades.
Yeah, when I was there, they were packed. They were full of smoking people and shrieking light. Shrieking sound effects, blinking lights. It was a good time.
Yeah,
they were multiple stories high. Yeah,
I feel like I'm not a person who likes to go out very much. I don't drink anymore, so I don't like to go to bars. But I think an awesome night out would definitely be like, go spend like $30 at an arcade.
Yeah.
And I think that's even like a good date night. It's like, let's go do something stupid and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's good stuff.
Fuck you, North America. Fuck you, indeed. I think that's all I have for the news. I wish we had a song or something. It's like, and that's the news.
Yeah. It's all over.
It's all over.
Nothing else is happening.
Nah. Okay.
All right.
We're really stretching this one out, aren't we? All right.
This is that padding we just complained about.
Right?
This is our fetch quest. So the topic that I came up with was, we it's no surprise, or it's not news here to say that we tend to focus a lot on rare games, unusual games, quirky retro games. So I thought a different take on that would be to focus on developers, kind of more unusual developers, and just getting to know some of the folks behind the scenes. So I came up with a few. You said you don't have many this week.
Is that the full topic?
Yeah, well, yeah, and then talk about maybe some future games that I think we had talked originally about, seeing what series we would like to see that.
That's kind of where I was. That's where my head was at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I did the same thing too. Although I tended to, I focused more on like properties, or in some cases just like a type of game that I would really like to see.
You're totally taking the helm on this one.
Okay. No. Yeah, I think it sounds like we're on the same page.
It'll be great.
Okay, sure.
Okay, and if it's not, it's going to be a very short podcast.
We'll just edit it, yeah. So I tried to focus on not necessarily like my favorite developers, but just on some quirkier ones, some more unusual ones. Mm-hmm. And the first one that jumped to mind, somebody that we talked about, I think fairly recently, was Tri-Ace.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and originally I had thought, before I did the research on this, I was like, oh yeah, Tri-Ace, they're part of Square Enix now. Well, I don't know if they're actually owned by Square Enix, or if they're like a kind of
right. I know that Square has published a lot of their games.
Yeah.
Or maybe all of their games.
Just about either Enix or Square, I think, has published just about everything that they've made.
Yeah.
They're originally they were former Telenet employees, which they were originally called Wolf Team.
Okay.
Which
I can picture all these logos.
Yeah.
I just don't know what they made.
So Wolf Team made a lot of like very anime-inspired games.
Okay.
Not very good games, but like they were very very flashy games. They made like the Valis series.
Okay.
They made Exile, which actually, Exile was pretty good.
Yeah, I played some of that.
Yeah, and they made Ernest Evans and...
Wait, I thought Revolution made that.
No, this was Wolf Team, yeah. I mean, they might have published it.
Maybe published it, yeah.
So a lot of games with like anime cutscenes, very like 80s, 90s anime type characters. And they had some kind of falling out. I think what eventually led them to go off and form Tri-Ace was they actually made Tales of Fantasia. So they started the Tales series, and then there was some kind of falling out with Namco, and they kind of went off to do their own thing. So originally, when I was doing this research, I had thought they made a lot of better stuff than they actually did. They don't really have a lot of games to their credit, and a lot of them aren't great.
Yeah.
They created the Star Ocean series as kind of like as a response to Tales of Fantasia. Actually, it was the original Star Ocean, I guess, was the game that they really wanted to make instead of Tales of Fantasia. Which is why, in a lot of ways, the Star Ocean games feel like kind of supercharged Tales games.
Okay.
But Star Ocean is pretty hit or miss, I would say. A lot of those have not been great. Really, only the second one is something that I would consider like a good game.
Now, did the first... I'm just guessing here, but I think I got it right. Did the first two Star Ocean games both come out on the PlayStation 1?
No. The original Star Ocean was a Super Famicom game. It was one of the last, and I think it might actually be like the biggest Super Famicom game made. Okay. It was something that they just couldn't port over because it wouldn't, the translation and everything just wouldn't fit on the cartridge. Okay. But and Star Ocean 2 was a PlayStation game.
Yeah.
They were both ported to the PSP, though.
Okay.
Star Ocean 2 with fairly minimal changes, but the first game was made to basically be in the style of Star Ocean 2, so that's why you're probably thinking that.
And then the third game came on PlayStation
2. Yeah. So the first game was okay. Star Ocean, the original Star Ocean was fine. Star Ocean 2 was pretty good, I would say. All of the rest have been kind of garbage, though.
Yeah.
But I think when you make Valkyrie Profile and Radiata Stories, maybe that just won over a lot of mind space for me. You can make a lot of other shit if you've got those two games on your resume, and I'll kind of continue to hold you in high regard. Because when I was looking it up, they basically made Star Ocean, Valkyrie Profile, Radiata Stories, and the Final Fantasy 13 sequels. Like, that's basically it. So a bit of a not necessarily the most robust of resumes.
So Final Fantasy 13 sequels were not made by the same people that made Final Fantasy 13.
No, they weren't.
Really?
I mean, they're all. I'm sure there was a lot of cooperation, but
sure.
They were the lead developers.
Interesting. Very interesting. Also interesting that I don't think this is. There we go.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Suddenly my audio quality improved significantly.
I don't... I think when I screwed it back together after cleaning it, maybe I just didn't do it the right way.
So all of their games tend to focus a lot on a kind of action-y battle system. I mean, even Valkyrie Profile, which is turn-based, had like a combo system. There were, timing elements to the battles. They tend to have a lot of like stat tweaking and character management. Like even in all of their games, your characters will have like combat skills. You can buff up their strength. You can buff up their magic, their special moves.
Yeah.
But they'll also have like all sorts of more passive skills. You can develop their like. Especially in Valkyrie Profile, you can develop a character's leadership ability, their like foraging skills, which will all confer certain passive stat bonuses, or in some contexts even allow you to do things outside of battle. Almost kind of in like a Western RPG way. Like if you've got a high science skill, you can access this computer terminal or something like that.
Okay.
Not quite to that extent. They tend to have a lot of like inter-character relationships and things. Star Ocean was one of the earlier games where you could like match up your party members. If people got to know each other well enough over the course of the game, they might like get married at the end, or
wow.
or like go adventuring together or something. Like you get different endings. I remember in Star Ocean 2, you can like match up all your party members together. They can become best friends or get married or things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
because I know what was I playing through? Tales of Exilia, and like it's a lot of that kind of like these characters work well together, and you can like advance them up together and make allow them to. I don't know. I fucking hated the combat system in that game, so I'm trying to talk about something I despise. But that's interesting that they it originated all the way back then.
Yeah. Well, there's always been a lot of bleed over between Tales and Star Ocean for obvious reasons.
Right.
But yeah, Valkyrie Profile was pretty cool because the whole concept of that game was you were recruiting fighters for Ragnarok, so you were trying to like buff up the gods' side for when the battle that ended the world took place. Your side would win. So you had to find all of these dead heroes, and then you had to prep them to go fight in this war. So you'd want to have if the gods needed a strong commander, you had to buff up their leadership ability. If the gods needed somebody that could like blacksmith and make armaments, you had to buff up that skill. So it's pretty cool stuff. So it's kind of a shame that their resume isn't better because they've got a bunch of junk on it, but then like one or two games that are really astounding,
right.
and there's not a whole lot different between the ones that are good and bad as far as core mechanics. It's just kind of how they're implemented. So that the potential is there for them to always be capable of doing some amazing things.
Right.
So when I was thinking about it, one of the things that always has bugged me about Star Ocean in particular is that it's not very sci-fi. Like, you get this idea, at least in the ones that I haven't played all of them, I will admit, but the ones that I've played, it tends to be that you have, like, a couple of your party members are from this, like, galaxy-spanning, you know, military group that crash lands on some other planet, and then it ends up playing out just like any other fantasy RPG, you know, with some sci-fi elements. Where I've often felt like, why don't we have more, like, real science fiction Japanese RPGs? You know, you get the occasional sci-fi Western RPG like your, you know, Mass Effect or Fallout or something like that.
Right.
Why can't there be more, you know, JRPGs that way? And so I was thinking, you know what would be great? For Tri-Ace to make either a Star Wars or a Star Trek RPG. I would buy that in a second.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's all the components are there. You know, everything would work really well. And I mean, you would think like, oh, what you know, who's going to give some third-rate Japanese developer access to one of these properties?
Right.
But remember, Disney owns Star Wars now. Disney's already been working with Square for years with Kingdom Hearts. It's not too much of a stretch to see them passing along Star Wars to Tri-Ace. You know, the people are, all the key people are there.
When's the last time we saw like a JRPG style game for any huge license like Star Wars or Star Trek? Because
yeah, I mean, it's been a
long time.
It really has. Especially, you know, and I know Disney has gone on record as saying, like, oh, we're not really interested in making video games anymore. But, you know, if they gave it to somebody else, you know, somebody that they've already been cooperating with for a while. But, yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Star Wars technically had The Old Republic, which came out,
no idea.
6 or 7 years ago, I think, at this point.
Probably.
Maybe, yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
You know, and Knights of the Old Republic was when I was in college, so that was like, you know, 10 to 15 years ago.
Right.
But, you know, I think it's something that could work, especially with new Star Wars movies coming out. I mean, it's a brand that hasn't faded in quality. You know, Star Trek would be a little more complicated, although I actually think a Star Trek game made by Tri-Ace could be even better. Yeah. But again, that's another brand that's kind of coming back with the new movies. And
yep.
I think that could be pretty great. I would love to see that.
Very true. Excuse me. The damn, just totally
Sorry,
blank.
I get thinking about Star Trek and just can't focus
That's
anymore.
kind of what happened. Are you a big Star Trek fan?
Not really, but you know, I've watched a lot of the shows. You know, my dad was a big fan when I was growing up, so I've seen, you know, a lot of the original and Next Generation.
Because I've never seen... I've seen like maybe like 10 episodes of the original. Like, I was never a fan. It was like, it's just too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my dad and I used to watch Next Generation.
Oh, yeah.
When it was first on. We'd watch it whenever it was
Yeah.
on. It would just be him and me on the couch,
Yeah,
and we'd watch
yeah.
it, and it would be great. And then recently, once he retired, we started hanging out a little bit more, and we'd go through, and every week we'd watch like 1 or 2 episodes on Netflix. And man, we blasted through the entire series. I don't know how many seasons it was,
pretty long.
But in like maybe like 3 or 4 years, like it took us to watch an episode or 2 a week. There's so much you could do with Star Trek.
I know,
you know, especially
seriously.
with like the holodeck. Like I can imagine like just doing like just side quests in the holodeck,
Yeah.
and it could be anything. Like
Yeah.
suddenly it doesn't even have to be Star Trek related, because it could be anywhere in the world. You have like that real open availability to just do whatever you want to.
Yeah, and you know, Mass Effect kind of was a Star Trek RPG, or at least it started out that way. I think it kind of turned into something a little different. But when I was playing Mass Effect, the whole time I was just thinking, why doesn't somebody make Star Trek like with this? Make this, but with Star Trek, because it's perfect. It's a perfect fit.
I would only be into this concept if it was the Next Generation cast, because every we
better do it quick before some of them start dying. Like,
I'm sure some of them are getting kind of old, but like Voyager, it was good, but it wasn't awesome, and like the original cast, meh. But And I don't know, like nothing, no Star Trek ever jumped out at me like Next Generation did. However, I think even like a Battlestar Galactica would be phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's that same kind of feeling as Next Generation. It's like very, very character focused.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yep. So get to it, Tri-Ace.
Yeah.
We have faith in you. I played Valkyrie Profile.
I don't have an extensive history on the first developer I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
I think mostly because there's not an extensive history. I love Naughty Dog as a developer.
Naughty Dog's been around for a while.
Yep. As far as I know, the first game they made was Way of the Warrior on the 3DO, which was a generally considered awful fighting game, one-on-one, around the time of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
Didn't they make was it Legend of the Rings or Secret Rings or something for the Genesis?
No idea.
There was a code where the woman would take her shirt off. This is a real thing. I'm not making this up.
Thank you, Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
If that's the case, awesome.
Yeah.
But the first game I know of is Way of the Warrior, and it's funny too because it's absolutely a Mortal Kombat ripoff, which was a ripoff of basically Street Fighter, which became its own thing. But it's generally considered to be a pretty bad game. I have it. I agree, it's a pretty bad game. But very very soon after that, they basically created PlayStation 1's mascot with Crash Bandicoot, and I remember getting Crash Bandicoot, and I'd had a PlayStation 1 for a little while, and some of the games early PlayStation 1 were really rough.
Yeah.
I remember my best friend at the time, Andrew, and I, we'd actually gone to an arcade, must have been the Dream Machine, and we had a blast playing Cyber Sled. Like, this game is amazing. It's so much fun. And I was like, I think it's on the PlayStation.
All right.
Instead of spending more money here at the arcade, I bet we could go grab that for like $20 at the store. And we did. And, I mean, just big, flat, ugly polygons. The control was awful. Like, not Namco's best arcade port. So, comparing a game like Cyber Sled, and very shortly after seeing Crash Bandicoot 1, it was night and day.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe that the backgrounds in Crash were full rendered 3D backgrounds. Obviously, it wasn't open world or anything. You couldn't go off the path, but man, Naughty Dog knew how to optimize the hardware. And that ability that they had, and not only graphically, but they obviously had some awesome people at the helm of like level design, because Crash 1, 2, 3, and even Crash Team Racing. I think Crash Team Racing is probably the best Mario Kart ripoff ever made. It is phenomenal. So I still play it every so often. It's fun. So they kind of were the company that had it all. And then when PlayStation 2 came around, I was like, oh, what's going to happen? Like Crash got like sold off to a different developer or something. Those
Who
games,
owns him now?
I want to say Universal.
Oh, okay.
I think Traveler's Tales were the ones in the PlayStation 2 ever making it. But now I think Activision owns Crash.
Really,
for some reason.
the Lego people?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Traveler's Tales made the PlayStation 2 Crash games, at least the first one. But I think Activision owns the Crash license now, and I think I only know that because I think Sony has an interest in buying it back. Because it's kind of like an iconic PlayStation character.
I don't know what you do with it nowadays, but
I'd play a Crash game. I would totally play a PlayStation 4 Crash game, because let me tell you, a
modern gritty Crash game.
It's got to be better than NAC.
Cover-based third-person shooter.
Please God, no. But it has to be better than NAC, because NAC was supposed to be like the new Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation 4, and it was bad.
Yeah.
Bad. It was on sale for like $10 recently, and I still told everyone online not to buy it. Like, it's not worth $10.
You ran to the store, just knocked over the display.
Right.
Started stomping on them.
Putting my review score on each, just slapping the store. Like 1 out of 10. Backlogged.
It's just a picture of you just like... Oh, it's one of those holographic stickers that as you turn it, you just like shake your head.
Yeah, I like it. That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Yeah, except the holographics
that'd
stickers
be kind
will
of
cost
expensive.
more than
yeah,
that.
that'd be really expensive to print those.
Anyway,
vanity printing.
The point is a new Crash game would be awesome. But PlayStation 2 came around, and suddenly Naughty Dog had their new IP, and it was Jak and Daxter. And I remember seeing the photos of the screenshots in Electronic Gaming Monthly, and I just couldn't believe it. It's like, I knew the PlayStation 2 was going to be powerful, but the screenshots were mind-boggling. And when you first play the game, I mean, the character animations are so fluid, and it was running at 60 frames a second. I mean, it was like beautiful. This was a game that, I mean, not that I didn't love my PS2 before, but this game sold me. Like, I'm in heaven right now. Like, games can't look any better than this. Yeah. And again, like, Jak 2 was kind of a departure, and they kind of, they did a little Grand Theft Auto thing.
I remember that.
Which was like, it was okay, but I mean, like,
it's gritty. They're heading towards it. We're gonna have Gears of Crash,
right? So even though like 2 and 3 were a pretty big departure from 1, they were still awesome games, and you could just tell the developer wasn't happy. Like, just being like, let's just pump out another collectathon. Let's do something. Grand Theft Auto is huge. Let's show Rockstar that that open world type games can run at, like, run nice and look nice, because I was like one of the few people that was like, Grand Theft Auto 3 looks like garbage. You can do a lot in the game, but Naughty Dog can certainly show them how it's done. So fast forward again, PlayStation 3, Uncharted, like, looked beautiful. I think that a lot of games still didn't even match the visual fidelity of Uncharted 1 by the end of the life cycle.
Yeah, they're good-looking games.
And then finally, of course, The Last of Us, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, the PlayStation 4 version, the PlayStation 3 version, these games are just beautiful. And it really showed how much Naughty Dog had grown over the years to be able to tell this like deep story, very emotional story, and still keeping up like the all the things they'd learned about programming, and just, it was generally, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest games ever made. So, brief history of Naughty Dog. Sorry. So they're an awesome developer. I want them to use what they learned making The Last of Us to make a Silent Hill game. And here's the reason. Silent Hill has been off the rails forever. Like since Silent Hill 3, I don't think there's maybe been a good one.
Did you play the Wii one, Shattered Memories?
No, wasn't Shattered Memories like an updated version of the original one?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, but there's no combat. It's all like exploration and then like getting chased around. You're playing freeze tag with zombies.
So part of them getting off the rails with Silent Hill was doing this kind of thing, like releasing Shattered Memories. There was
Homecoming.
There was
something Rain.
Downfall. Was it Downfall? Downpour. I don't know, something. There were so many, and they were just scattered over different systems. And there was a PSP one, but I wasn't sure if it was the same one as the Wii one. Like, there were just too many, and none of them screamed quality.
Yeah.
So I almost didn't want to bring this up, because I do think that Konami currently is doing something awesome with Silent Hill. The PT demo or trailer, or interactive trailer they called it, for the new Silent Hill game was phenomenal. Like, you could tell something special is going on here.
We talked about that one,
Yeah, Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro teamed up to make this game. And I don't know when it's coming. It's probably not even this year. It's probably 2016. Yeah. And I'm sure it's going to be amazing, because if the trailer, if what I played is any indication of what kind of game this is going to be, it's going to be awesome. But there's no guarantee. So for the sake of this conversation, I want to play a game that feels like The Last of Us in a Silent Hill world that has, I don't even mind like the little crafting elements that they brought in with The Last of Us. I'm totally down for that, because it just kind of adds to the, oh my god, like, I only have these couple of items.
Yeah.
Do I make something that'll increase my health or give me a little bit of ammo, or what can I do with these items, even though I have almost no resources left. And it adds to that sense of fear and dread. Like, I don't know what's around the next corner. I don't know what I'm going to need. You know, so yeah, the Last of Us version of Silent Hill, and I think the storytelling in Silent Hill is all over the place. Sometimes it's a good story, and sometimes it's a bad story, but for the most part, it's a bad story. And I think Naughty Dog's able to craft a story that will make you really care about the characters when I never really did before.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting idea. I think that's a good pairing. I could definitely see that.
Also, the combat in Silent Hill has always been pretty bad.
Yeah, and I've heard that justified as like, well, that's the point. Like, you're not supposed to be a fighter, and that's why in Shattered Memories they took it out completely. Like, the only thing you can do is run.
I don't want that.
No,
I want. I would like to be able to. This is just me throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, but I'd almost like maybe like a weapon crafting system where not as extensive as like say Dead Island, where like you're fusing wires to blades and creating electrified like machetes.
You're blacksmithing your own sword out of pipes and stuff.
I don't want that, but I do want to say like if you found like a pipe and you found some like duct tape and you found like a knife or something, you could create something that extends your reach and gives you like a little more power. So within the context of reason, I think that would be awesome. So yeah, maybe that's where I'm going with this. Maybe a more realistic Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Because the more realistic you get with Silent Hill, I think the creepier it can be.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that's what Silent Hill has always differentiated itself from, say, like your Resident Evil and a lot of their clones. I mean, Resident Evil is definitely the campy, like B-movie style horror. They've had a lot of heavy sci-fi elements as time went by.
Yeah.
Where Silent Hill is always more about psychological horror. It's more about that. They haven't had to have as much combat. They haven't had to show the monsters because the horror is often just being alone and not knowing, what else is around the corner, like you said.
In that regard, I do think that Hideo Kojima is on the right track because the PT trailer gameplay is super psychological.
Yeah.
Like, you're scared to go around the next corner because you're like, I don't know.
There might be more cutscenes. I might have to hear more about nanomachines and
God.
nuclear proliferation.
Please, God, tell me that in Silent Hills there will not be any cutscenes.
Silent Hills with a Z. It's gangsta.
No. Oh man, I'm so upset with some of the decisions they're making. I forget his name. Norman Reedus is going to star in Silent Hills, and he's one of the he's one of the main characters in Silent. He's one of the main characters in Walking Dead.
Oh.
And he's got this super southern drawl. He has a very distinct look to him. The whole time I'm playing Silent Hills, I'm going to be thinking, this is Walking Dead. Like, which maybe
you
they're
start
going
out like on a horse. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically any company that wants to make a survival horror game, I'm totally in
I
favor
know, it
of.
just comes back to
That's what I should have said
horror,
in the first place. I could have ignored the whole history of Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
So... what else do you have over there?
So I tried to pick again some slightly lesser known groups. So Camelot Software Planning, they actually used to. It's funny that they're very much in the Nintendo camp now.
I know Camelot.
Yeah, because they used to be Sonic Software Planning actually, and they were firmly working for Sega. They pretty much created and ran the Shining series for however many years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, yep.
Oh.
They made all the Shining Force games, Shining in the Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they made Shining Wisdom or if that was when they started to...
Is there one called Shining in the Holy Ark?
Yep, that was them.
Okay.
Yep. And those games are great. They're one of the few Genesis or few Sega games that I've gone to that I've discovered as an adult and that I've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But apparently they had some kind of falling out with Sega revolving around the last scenario of Shining Force 3. And so they jumped ship and started working on Nintendo games, and they made the Golden Sun series.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Which is why, if you play Golden Sun and you play the Shining games, there's a lot of similarities, like their menu system, the way the dialogue flows, their art style, the sound effects. And the great thing about Camelot is that their games are, being Japanese, are obviously heavily anime inspired, but they're more towards that like Astro Boy, almost like Disney-esque kind of visuals.
Right.
They tend to have a lot of like fantasy characters and creatures. especially Shining Force has like centaurs and birdmen, and beastmen. Shining Force has all. Golden Sun has all the Djinn, all the different summon characters and such.
I don't mean to jump ahead.
What's up?
Are they making the Mario Golf games? Is that what they're doing?
That's what they're doing now, which is very strange for a company that has been... Although, actually, I did look up their history, and they have historically made a lot of golf games, too.
So here's the deal. I know that Clap Hands makes the Everybody's Golf or Hot Shots Golf games, but I want to say the first one was made by Camelot.
Maybe. That I'm not sure about. But they definitely... They nowadays, what they make is Mario Golf and Mario Tennis.
Mario Tennis as well.
Yeah, Mario Tennis. Yeah.
Cool.
So those are their big things, which seems very strange for a company that has made so many role-playing games and great role-playing games.
Yeah.
Obviously the Shining Force games tend to have the highest cultural cache, but even the dungeon crawls, Shining in the Darkness, Shining in the Holy Ark, are pretty well respected.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that now they're just doing sports games, which well-reviewed sports games. Golf and tennis, I think, are two of the more highly regarded Mario sports franchises.
They made Beyond the Beyond for the original PlayStation,
yep.
And they did make the original Hot Shots Golf before Clap Hands took over. Yep.
Yeah, no, I knew Beyond the Beyond. I was just not mentioning that doesn't have the best
bad reputation.
Yeah, it's a little, but again, it's got that same look though as all their other games.
Very true. Although it's got to be better than like Quest 64, right?
Probably, yeah.
Most everything.
Yeah, I've heard that the big problem with Beyond the Beyond is just it's kind of a slog. Like, it's not a bad game, but somebody said it's something like 80 hours. It's like 2 discs or 3 discs, and it feels like it should be like a 15-hour game, like one of these brief Super Nintendo RPGs that's just been really, really padded out.
Right.
But they obviously learned their lesson, as at least the 2 Game Boy Advance Golden Suns were very brisk. Easy, fun RPGs.
Unlike Tri-Ace, it sounds like Beyond the Beyond is the exception to the rule instead of the rule.
Yeah, they're kind of the opposite. But so I got to thinking that being basically a Nintendo subsidiary nowadays, and having not really been a huge fan of some of the more recent Mario RPGs, I think Camelot could do a pretty good job with a Mario RPG to kind of jumpstart the franchise again. And so I was thinking about that, because a lot of their games have that same kind of tone, that lightheartedly heroic. Shining Force got dark from time to time, but there's always this kind of level of fun and lightheartedness to things. But as I was thinking about that, I was thinking, oh man, what they could really do a great job with? Zelda. Not necessarily a traditional Zelda game, but I think giving them that universe and letting them create something with it could be absolutely phenomenal. Because again, it's that same thing. Zelda also has a very cartoony, not quite a Disney-like feel, but like a kind of almost an American cartoon kind of feel to it. The Zelda games don't have a lot of, despite being Japanese, again, they don't feel quite as anime influenced as some of the other fantasy properties coming out of Japan. And I think Camelot could do some really interesting things. I mean, maybe not even with Link and Zelda, but just set some kind of adventure in that world. Again, you've got the Gorons, you've got the Zora, you've got the bird folks. There's whole races that you could play around with. I would really like to see that. I think Camelot has a lot of quality still left in them, and I think, especially with Zelda, at least in my opinion, really flagging over the last decade.
Yeah.
They need someone, at least, even if it wasn't a great game, just something to spice it up.
So let's talk about the two franchises just for a minute that you brought up.
Okay.
The Mario RPG series. The last time we saw a Mario RPG was Super Paper Mario on the Wii?
No, Sticker Star Saga on the 3DS.
Okay. That was that... you know what? I think I have that. I've never played it. Is it oh yeah, it's probably over there. It's probably in the shrink wrap. What was the deal with that game? From what I've been told, I think it was short and very basic.
Yeah, it almost felt like they focused the entirety of development on the battle system.
Okay.
Because they made a great battle system. So instead of the standard, in past it's usually been like a 2-character party, Mario and some other character.
You just swap them out.
Yeah. And there's all timing based. You get different moves. You use flower points that function like magic points to do repeated jumps or throw fireballs or things.
Right.
It's just Mario, and his moveset is defined by items that he's picked up, these stickers.
Okay.
The bigger the sticker, the shinier the sticker, the more powerful the move. But he can do anything. He can basically do any of the moves that previous characters could do.
Okay.
And there's just tons and tons of stickers. But you have to, each time you go into a dungeon, you kind of have to keep track of okay, if I'm going to take out this huge group of enemies, if I'm going to use this big sticker, I'm not going to have it for the boss or, what have you.
So stickers wear off?
They do. They're one shot and then you're done.
Wow.
I think that. There might have been one or two that were multiple use, but for the most part, you use it and it's gone.
It sounds almost like a card-based system.
Yeah, it really was. It was a very different take on the combat. I mean, you had all the same basic abilities, and the flow of battle was very similar with timing and such. But
was it also a short game?
Yeah, I mean, it was short-ish. I wouldn't say it was way shorter than the other ones.
Okay.
But what really bugged me about it was there was no... as opposed to, people have been bitching that the Mario and Luigi games that have been getting very chatty and
okay.
This was the exact opposite. There was no dialogue in this game. It's you got to find the princess and then you're just off. There's no other towns, very, very few people to talk to, and you're just kind of going. And because you have no party members, your only interactions are with bosses for the most part, or Kamek or something. And it just felt like, gameplay wise, it felt like one of the best that's come along, but it just lacked that Mario RPG fun. Half of the fun of those games is the silly dialogue, the amusing characters, and it just had none of that.
That's crazy. That series has been all over the place.
Yeah.
And as far as Zelda's concerned, you played A Link to the Past? No, that's not what it's called.
A Link Between Worlds. Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
That was good.
So all is not lost in the Zelda universe.
Although, again, you have to remember, Link Between Worlds was originally, and right up till close to the end of development, was conceived as a remake of Link to the Past. So, I mean, it's the same exact world done in 3D. A lot of the same stuff. I mean, they threw in that 2D mechanic, which was pretty cool. So I guess that must have been integrated fairly early on in development. But yeah, I mean, this was a great game, but one that was definitely built with the bones of a great game.
Great game, right?
As opposed to the DS ones were just garbage. I did not care for Skyward Sword at all, despite the fact that it had some of the best dungeons in any Zelda game. It played like shit. And Twilight Princess was good, but much like A Link Between Worlds, it felt like it was taking most of its... It felt like it was kind of a mashup of Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time.
So what do you want to see? What do you want to see from Camelot? What new do you think they can bring to the table for Zelda.
I don't even fucking care.
You just want somebody else to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could do a great, traditional RPG in that setting.
Yeah.
I mean, they could even do a strategy game. There's always, in all of the Zelda games, they're always making references to these wars and things that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, maybe they should show one of those for once.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to focus on Link. It doesn't have to focus on Zelda. This doesn't have to, buy into all of the fanboy, wankery. I think it just sorry.
Yeah, you said that.
It just has to be something different. Just inject some energy into the series.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd play it.
Yeah.
I want to see what they're doing with Zelda right now.
Yeah,
like
I
Nintendo.
do too. I still haven't played Hyrule Warriors.
I'm waiting for that to drop in price because
Yeah.
I will pay $30 for that game, but I'm not going to pay $60.
Yeah, I'm gonna just probably borrow it from work, like I do everything nowadays.
Yeah, it's safer.
Yeah, that's what it's there for.
Yeah. I did watch some gameplay footage of Hyrule Warriors recently, and it just really made me want to play it. I'm not a Dynasty Warriors fan.
No.
But all it takes is a slap of Zelda paint, and suddenly I'm interested.
See, that's what was kind of a turnoff for me, because I was like, I don't like Dynasty Warriors if just Dynasty Warriors with Zelda characters, who I've already been kind of losing my enthusiasm for.
Right.
But I've heard that it's done some different things. They have some really random-ass characters in the game, so...
Mike, so Quantic Dream.
Yes.
Yes. A very divisive company, I think.
Yeah.
I
There's people who think it's bad, and people who think it's really
bad.
bad.
Yeah. So, Quantic Dream has made a few, I think, amazing games. With, I think the first one of note, I'm sure they made some PC stuff back in the day, but we're skipping all of it.
Yeah.
The first one of note is for the Dreamcast, Omicron, the Nomad Soul.
Okay.
And whoa. That's one of those games that I'm not sure if it should have made it to the Dreamcast at all. It was a PC game. I'm sure it ran fine on PC, but man, the Dreamcast was not quite powerful enough. Or maybe they didn't know what they were doing. Or maybe they spent too much money on David Bowie to really make a great game.
Is he a voice actor in the game, or is he
there's a
singing
song in it or something? Right. Maybe he voices somebody. I know he's involved, and it probably was unnecessary. So, and it's a game that I really want to get around to playing, but it's one of those that it will take hours for me to forget that it's 2015 right now and sink myself into an old Dreamcast game. So,
you'll just go back to Carrier instead.
One of these days I'll finish that game.
Oh, God.
It's not going to be a happy day, but one of these days. But so...
Whoa.
Yeah, I do have the window. I have the window open a crack because it's been so hot in this apartment.
They get all this ambient noise, then, our viewers.
Yeah, you can see us now, too.
Yeah.
Which is, we added some natural light, not the beer. That would make the podcast so much better if we were drunk.
Drinking, yeah.
But you can see the whole apartment now, which I'm not a huge fan of you being able to see, mostly because it's messy. But deal. We're in high res now.
Yeah.
No. So Quantic Dream, after Omicron, made, I think, a great game. Fahrenheit/Indigo Prophecy. It was definitely the beginning of Quantic Dream saying, oh, you can make any decision you want to in a game, but we're still going to give you the same outcome.
Yeah.
And I think Indigo Prophecy, I remember I was living in Tennessee at the time, and there was a game store, probably called Game Trader, but could be something else. And I remember going in, and I knew the guys there because I freaking lived there. And they were talking about this game. And they were like, oh, did you clean up the blood? Oh, no, I ran out the window. Oh, whatever. Did you find the weapon? Oh, there was a weapon? Where did you find the weapon? Like, oh, I hid it. But I hid it in the trash. No, I took it with me. I did this. It's like, guys, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, it's a game called Indigo Prophecy. And immediately it was the first game, I think, in my life that I bought because of a conversation that was happening in a game store near me.
But not the last.
No, that's not true. I think I've been pretty informed otherwise. So, and I can't believe I'd never heard of it. So I bought it, and I brought it home, and I was enthralled. Because it's all about decision making, and there's always this urgency about whatever you're doing. And you get to play as different characters, and they're likable characters. And there's always this mystery, and you never know exactly what's going on, which is a theme, I think, that carried on to all their other games. And at that point, I fell in love with Quantic Dream. When I fell out of love with Quantic Dream was about a week later when I decided to replay the game and make all different decisions.
And none of it mattered.
It really didn't matter at all. So, I mean, certain things, yes, but for the most part, no. It gave you a great illusion of decision making. So obviously, I was super excited when they made Heavy Rain for the PlayStation 3. And I think mostly because when they first debuted Heavy Rain, it wasn't about, oh, this is going to be awesome gameplay or all about decision making. They were like, this game is going to be photorealistic. You know, with the power of the PlayStation 3, it was all pretty new. So it was a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And it's not a bad looking game. It still looks
a
pretty
good looking
yeah.
game, but not photorealistic. No. Not even close. And I think you have more of an issue with the storytelling in that game than I do. I don't really find any problems. There are plot holes, but nothing I think that can't be overlooked.
Okay.
Yeah. You, however,
yeah, English major.
Okay. That doesn't give you any credibility.
Well, I'm at least familiar with stories and their structure.
Oh, because you've read before.
Yes.
Okay, I never read a book. For the sake of the joke, I've never read a book. And then
you just read old EGM.
I do.
Next to your toilet.
Well, they're in front of my toilet.
Okay.
Right, they're not next to it. It's like, what if I missed?
Well, what if you run out of toilet paper?
No. Impossible. So of course, Beyond Two Souls was the last game we saw from them. And it's not the end of the company. But
surprisingly.
Yeah.
It must have sold pretty well.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're making a PS4 remastered version, which is totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
But at least it started to introduce new elements. You could become Aiden, the soul, I think, and you could travel a little more freely.
You never controlled the soul guy?
What do you mean?
You said you could become... You said you didn't.
No. You can control the soul, which gives you... Yeah, I don't know what I said. God only knows.
Yeah.
But you can control Aiden, and it gives you more freedom, quote unquote. And you get to travel a little bit more freely, and you get to interact with things in a different way than the main character does. So I think it brought a lot of interesting things to the table. But again, it just never came together properly.
Yeah.
So I think Quantic Dream has had a lot of ups and downs. But I think the biggest downfall that the company has is it doesn't know that it can laugh at itself. It doesn't know when to have a good sense of humor. It takes all of its games super seriously, and they come off feeling super pretentious.
Now I'm just imagining all of those games with a laugh track and sound effects.
They'd be awesome.
Bang! Guy like falls down the stairs.
So I want them to make a video game, a point-and-click adventure in the style of an old LucasArts game. Because the games are already sort of point-and-click adventure games.
Yeah, they're definitely like the modern interpretation of
and more so than even Telltale games.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because it feels like maybe there's puzzle solving, maybe there's things to figure out. But I'd like to take that to a new level. I'd like them to I want them to do something goofy. You know, I want them to make a new Loom. I want them to make a new Maniac Mansion. Like, not those games specifically, but something in those vein where there might be a dark tone to the game. You know, because Loom was very dark, and Monkey Island was very dark, but the whole thing was just so goofy.
Yeah,
I want them to be able to laugh at themselves and try something new. Because I think David Cage is the one who gets the company in trouble all the time. He's always talking, and he's always kind of talking out his ass.
Yeah,
and he's like, dude, just shut up, man. Just shut up. He thinks of himself as a director, and instead he needs to think of himself as a game developer.
Yeah,
and try to find ways for the player to have fun. Currently, I don't think that's happening a lot of the time. And I think this would be the cure for the David Cage disease.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely wants to make, like, high adrenaline French thriller movies, like, not video games.
Yep.
I mean, I would like to see them just get some better writers. They can make whatever the fuck game they want, but somebody that's not going to create giant glaring plot holes, I think.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like if you change the tone of your game, who cares if there's plot holes? You know, like there were probably plot holes in The Secret of Monkey Island, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
You know, because they take themselves so seriously, the reaction you get from people is a serious reaction.
Yeah.
You know, that's when people are like, well, there's a plot hole here. It's like, well, who the hell cares? It's a game. Well, it's because they take themselves so seriously. Is why we're reacting in that way, or why you're reacting? I don't care. I still think of it as a game, and I still just want to have fun. Yeah, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they could do it, and I think what a lot of those games are missing is sort of, you get to, especially in Beyond Two Souls, you're taking control of your character for such a limited amount of time, that you never have the chance to like really like develop an inventory, you know, or try to figure out how to use those items in your inventory to your advantage, or solve puzzles. And I think the same thing happened in Heavy Rain, because you're switching characters all the time. It's like there is no real inventory. So I think that alone would add a whole other dimension to these games.
Yeah. To
really give it the point-and-click adventure feel.
Definitely.
They'll never do it.
No.
Their next game is going to be super serious. Although, what was their... When they did like a PlayStation 4 kind of teaser trailer, and it was like this... It was this wizard, and it was like all this super serious, like high fantasy stuff. Yeah, and then somebody else cut, and they're all like, "What the hell's going on here?" And it seemed really funny.
Yeah, that was actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
Huh,
so maybe I'm onto something here. Who knows? I can't wait to see what their next project is. I'll play it.
Yeah, I'd play that if they actually made a game of that thing.
Yeah. Let's do one more. What do you got?
Okay. All right, so to finish off, I think this is another... I feel like these three developers are all ones that we've talked... The three that I picked are all ones that we've talked about fairly recently.
Okay.
So Platinum Games.
Yeah.
Platinum Games. They're, I think most serious gamers are at least somewhat familiar with their story. They're kind of the remnants of Clover. But they've got, Shinji Mikami, Hideki Kamiya, a lot of like really big name, former Capcom staff. And it generally seems like their goal is to really kick it up, the stuff that they were doing at Capcom.
Yeah.
They tend to make these really stylish, I don't want to say edgy, but stylish, bloody action games. They've got Mad World, Bayonetta, which I and a lot of other people can consider to be kind of the high point of the 3D brawler. Mm-hmm. They did Vanquish, which phenomenal game.
Yeah. It's super overlooked. No one ever talks about Vanquish.
No. That's funny that you mention that, because you hear about Bayonetta, you'll occasionally hear about Mad World, but yeah, Vanquish was here and gone. I think I bought it. It was marked down like a couple days after its release. I got it for like $30. Which is a shame, because I think the time that John was here and the three of us were talking, I said I wouldn't care if every third-person shooter forever was basically made like Vanquish, because it's that good.
Right.
They did Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, which I was not a huge fan of, but it reviewed very well. I've promised myself that someday I'll give it another shot, because I believe in Platinum. I'm going to assume that it's just me missing something.
It's on my list too, for sure.
Yeah, you can get it for like $1 on Amazon nowadays. It's so cheap.
$9 is when I bought it. It's still in the cellophane.
Yeah. But
Revengeance.
Yeah. So I'm going to assume Hideo Kojima picked that title.
Yeah. When I first heard it, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
But
now you know that that's true.
I've actually grown to like it, because just smash two words together.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's in the spirit of Platinum and just the ridiculous shit that they pull off in their games.
Yeah. But it is funny that this was the first Metal Gear Rising game, and they still felt the need to add an extra line of title to it.
Well, did you play the beginning? The first mission, you get screwed over pretty bad.
Still cellophaned.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no.
All right.
Ooh, cellophaned. That's a word now.
That's a good one.
Trademark. There's no coffee in here. I'm still...
I know. It's like how smokers will have like the unlit cigarette.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's not much to say about Platinum, because I feel like they speak for themselves. Other than the weird Infinite Space game, which I still haven't played, but I was thinking, what? There haven't really been many good games of, which is interesting considering the kind of explosion in popularity.
What?
There haven't been very many good Marvel superhero games. And you think about the Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, all of those are exploding in popularity nowadays.
Right.
And especially after, I was a huge fan of the Avengers movie. I actually saw that a couple times in theaters, which I don't usually do. Man, Platinum could make a phenomenal, like, Marvel superheroes game. They could do a terrific Avengers game.
What were the good X-Men games? Were that X-Men Legends 1 and 2?
Yeah, X-Men Legends 1 and 2 were pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and actually Marvel...
But those are a long time ago.
Exactly. Yeah, and Marvel had a good one, too. They had Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which was same engine, and again, that was a great game.
Yeah.
That was going to be called Marvel Legends until I think the toy company that made Marvel Legends action figures. Yeah.
Ultimate Alliance is a better name anyway, I think.
Yeah, it's not bad. But yeah, I mean, there have been some good things. You know, the Spider-Man arcade game, the X-Men arcade game. There's been a handful over time, but considering with the recent boom of popularity since, I guess, the original Iron Man came out back, 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It seems like that would be such a great fit for Platinum, that they could do a phenomenal Avengers, and not I'm not even saying movie based, just like Ultimate Alliance, just take all the elements of the comic book and throw them into one game.
Throw like some RPG elements with leveling up.
Different
abilities.
Yeah, well, like a Bayonetta type thing where you can unlock different weapons and different combo styles and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you even think about a character like the Black Widow from Avengers, who has a very similar fighting style to like a Bayonetta. Right. It's right there, folks.
Ah, man. They're after us. They found me. They're not after you. It's just me. Yeah. All the bad things I've done. I'm blanking today on everything.
And you had the coffee. You told me yourself.
Yeah, it's true, but I think I peaked.
All right, now it's all downhill. At least you don't have to work tonight.
I don't, but I've got a ton of other stuff to do. More importantly, I think Platinum is. I don't want to say they're coming into their own, because that would be ridiculous. Yeah. I think that I think they've hit a high point with Bayonetta 2, because universally, I think it's been considered one of the Wii U's best games. Yeah. And I've seen some video footage of it, and it looks beautiful. Yeah. It's like breathtaking. And in an age where we consider the Wii U, just like the Wii, sort of like the stopgap system between PS3 and 360 and Xbox One and PlayStation 4, it's nice. It's nice to see that highly stylized game taking advantage of the hardware fully, and to the point where you're like, this easily could have passed as like a PS4 game. Yeah. So I mean, those guys, they really know what they're doing. Do we have any idea how Bayonetta 2 sold?
No.
There's not a huge install base in the Wii U to begin with, and then when you take it to the next level and say, well, what's the Platinum fan base?
I suspect Nintendo gave them a big chunk of change to make it exclusive.
Absolutely.
So
That's
I
definitely
think in
what
a way
happened.
its sales are kind of irrelevant.
Sure.
I mean, for their company's financial standpoint.
What are they doing next? Aren't they doing Scalebound on the Xbox One?
Yeah.
And that's again an exclusive game. Like, I mean, I understand. Go where the money is.
Yeah.
If they're going to give you a huge paycheck, go and do it. But the problem is like you're not developing a rapport with gamers on all platforms. So when they finally get around to making a PlayStation game again, no one's going to know who they are, because there are 13-year-old kids getting a video game console right now for the first time, saying, "Oh, who the hell is Platinum?" And that's a shame.
Yeah, that's why they need their Avengers game.
But Scalebound looks awesome.
Does it?
Yeah. Total different topic.
Yeah.
Different day. But yeah, no, they seem to be a thriving company for what is basically kind of a niche market.
Yeah. Well, they've got my support. I tend to jump on board pretty much everything that they've been putting out. They've seldom gone astray with me. So
yeah. What was the first game? The first game they did as Platinum?
I think it was Mad World.
Yeah.
I think it was...
That sounds like the right about time.
God Hand, I believe, was the last thing they did as Clover, and then they were kind of on their own for a while, and then they announced that huge, 4-game deal with Sega, which I believe was Mad World, Vanquish, Infinite Space, and Bayonetta, I think.
Cool. Very cool. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good job, Platinum.
Yay. All right, Mike, we got to start wrapping this thing up.
Yeah, it's getting to be that time.
What are you going to be playing this week?
Well, I'm definitely going to finish Deadfall Adventures, which is a terrible title for a game that's basically Indiana Jones, but I'm probably going to go home and finish that right now.
You beat Danganronpa too.
I did, thank God.
And you're still here.
I am still here. I barely...
Well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that it had a happy ending. It did end on a more optimistic note.
You sent me a text around 1 a.m. and you were like, thank God that this is over and it wasn't a bad ending.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was happy it was over for you.
Yeah, it was, especially towards the end, it got pretty grueling. It was a bad scene.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so excited.
See, like you said, I don't think they'll bother you as much as they did me, because
I've got no soul.
You're just a shattered husk of a human being.
So true. So what are you playing besides Deadfall?
I don't know. I keep kicking around the idea of starting a big RPG, but I need a couple hours. Maybe today, if I go home and beat Deadfall quick enough, maybe I'll just sit and I'll fire up a Skyrim or a Xenoblade or something and be like, all right, this is going to be my march.
I'm thinking of doing the same thing.
Really?
Which is going to be tough because I've got a lot of shit to play.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy 3 or 6 on Super Nintendo just showed up today.
Oh, wow. Really?
Not today. Today. So, this is the game I've been itching to play for a very long time. Would you say it's the highlight of the Final Fantasy series?
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, I like all the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom ones. I think 4, 5, and 6 are all pretty great. And I like 12 a lot, too.
Yeah.
But I think 6 for me is everything that I really love about Final Fantasy, with very little of the garbage that I don't care for.
Nice. I'm very excited to play that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something I can commit myself to right now.
It's a pretty quick game. I mean, I just talked about Xenoblade or Skyrim, which are probably 150-hour games.
Those are much
compared
bigger.
To a Final Fantasy, which is probably 30 hours.
I don't think I'm going to invest 100 hours into a game until Fallout 4. That's the next time that's going to happen. Did you hear? Let's get back
to the news.
Let's get back to the news. Did you hear that Bethesda is going to have their own press conference at this year's E3?
Wow.
I mean, traditionally it's been Sony, Microsoft, and not even Nintendo anymore.
Yeah.
Ubisoft and Electronic Arts. So you know they're announcing something huge.
They're bankrupt.
Right. Well, having a press conference alone could probably cause that. I hope it's Fallout 4. Nothing else could excite me as much as that.
It's Fallout 4, which is a crossover with Halo, an Xbox exclusive.
I mean, I've got an Xbox One collecting dust over there. Thanks for tuning in. As always,
good job. Good episode, everybody.
Right? I don't think we said anything racist.
No, that's good.
That's a big accomplishment.
I mean, I did say that Eastern European people don't understand American pop culture, but
it's not racist if it's true.
Yeah. There you go.
As always, thanks for tuning in. I'm Bryan Paul. Across from me is Mike Zeller.
Yep.
Please, if you have any comments, anything you want to talk to us about, just leave it in the comments, or you can email us currently at gamingwithoutparole@gmail.com. And that's pretty much it. We'll see you next week. Sorry for the late episode this week. We'll try to be back on target. See ya.